Her mom forced a blind alien woman to marry a human when she opened her eyes. On the distant planet Vierx, sight was more than a sense. It was power, pride, and proof of worth. The cities of Vierx rose like crystal towers, glowing with light and color. Every building was designed to be seen. Every achievement was measured by what the eyes could witness. And because of that, Luria was considered a mistake. She was born blind. From the moment she took her first breath, the elders whispered. Blindness was rare among her species, but when it happened, it carried shame. Those without sight were believed to be weak, unable to sense danger, beauty, or truth. Many were hidden away. Some were quietly sent off-world. Luria grew up in silence, not because she could not hear, but because people did not know how to speak to her. Her mother, Elder Saren, was one of the most respected leaders on Vierx. She stood tall in the council chambers, her eyes sharp, her voice firm. She spoke of honor, strength, and tradition. But when it came to her daughter, Saren felt only fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of disgrace. Fear that Luria's blindness would stain her name. Luria lived in a quiet wing of their home, surrounded by servants trained to guide but never to comfort. She learned the world through sound, texture, and memory. She memorized the shape of rooms by counting steps. She recognized people by their breathing and footsteps. Despite everything, she was gentle, curious, kind. But kindness had no value on Vierx. As Luria grew older, pressure grew heavier on Saren's shoulders. Other elders began to ask questions. What future does your daughter have? At the edge of the galaxy, a new species had joined the Galactic Alliance, humans. Humans were strange. They were not the strongest, fastest, or most advanced. Their technology was practical, not beautiful. Their ships were functional, not elegant. Many alien races saw them as emotional and unpredictable. And most importantly, humans were seen as lesser. Saren saw an opportunity. A political marriage could remove Luria from Vierx, protect her own reputation, and cost her nothing. A blind daughter married to a human would raise no questions. No one would care. The decision was made without Luria's voice. When Luria was told, she sat very still. A marriage? She asked softly. Yes, Saren replied. It is decided. Luria's hands tightened in her lap. Do I have a choice? Silence filled the room. Saren turned away. This is what is best. Luria did not cry. She had learned long ago that tears did not change anything. The human was named Daniel Cross. He was an engineer assigned to a cultural exchange program. When he received the message about the arranged marriage, he read it 3 times, convinced it was a mistake. Marriage was not part of the agreement. But humans had joined the galaxy with promises of cooperation. Refusing could cause tension. Accepting would make him a symbol. Daniel agreed, not because he wanted to, but because he understood responsibility. When he arrived on Vierx, the brightness of the world hurt his eyes. Everything shimmered. Everything was sharp and loud. Alien officials greeted him politely, but without warmth. Then he met Luria. She stood beside her mother, hands folded, head slightly tilted as if listening to something deeper than sound. Her eyes were pale and unfocused, staring into nothing. Daniel noticed how everyone avoided touching her. He stepped forward and spoke gently. Hello, my name is Daniel. Luria turned toward his voice immediately. Hello, she said. You speak slowly. Daniel smiled. I wanted to make sure you heard me. For the first time that day, Luria felt noticed. Their meeting was brief, formal, cold. Saren handled most of the words, explaining the agreement as if discussing trade supplies. Luria said little. Daniel said even less. But as they prepared to leave Vierx together, Daniel noticed something no one else did. Luria was trembling. As the human ship lifted off, carrying them away from the planet of light, Luria stood silently, one hand resting on the wall. She could feel the vibration of engines through the floor. This ship sounds different, she said. Daniel nodded, forgetting for a moment that she could not see. Humans build ships to last, not to impress. She smiled faintly. That sounds honest. The journey was long. Daniel made no demands. He gave her space. He described the meals before placing them in her hands. He explained where doors were, where corridors turned. He never treated her like a burden. Luria noticed that. No one had ever taken the time before. One night, as the stars passed unseen beyond the ship's windows, Luria finally asked the question she had been holding inside. "Why did you agree to this marriage?" Daniel thought for a moment. "Because someone had to take responsibility, and because I don't believe anyone should be treated like something to hide." Luria lowered her head. "You don't know me." "I know enough," he said quietly. She listened to his breathing, calm and steady. Something in her chest loosened. Far away on Vierks, Elder Saren watched the ship disappear from the sky. She felt relief wash over her. The problem was gone. She did not realize that she had just sent her daughter to the one place in the galaxy where being blind did not mean being worthless. And she had no idea what humans were truly capable of. The human ship moved steadily through the endless black of space. The hum of the engines was constant, like a heartbeat. For Luria, it was the first sound that did not remind her of judgment or fear. It was steady, safe, and oddly comforting. Daniel had arranged her quarters with care. They were small but practical. Every surface had a texture, every corridor had a guide rail, and every object had a place. Nothing dazzled the eye, because Luria did not have one, but everything could be felt, touched, and remembered. Humans were simple in their ways, but their simplicity carried thought and respect. For the first time in her life, Luria felt she belonged somewhere, even if she could not yet see it. Daniel entered her room one morning. His voice was soft, careful, the kind of voice that waited for permission before it spoke. "Good morning, Luria," he said. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes," she replied. She had learned quickly to mimic his tone, careful and measured. "The bed, it is different." "It is made for comfort, not status," Daniel explained. "You will like it more once you feel it fully." She traced the quilt, running her fingers over the stitches. Each pattern was raised slightly, a small guide for her fingers. She smiled faintly, a small warmth spreading in her chest. Days turned into weeks. Luria learned to navigate the human ship with surprising speed. Daniel taught her how to sense the shape of rooms using sound and echo, how to feel temperature changes as signs of corridors or open airlocks, and how to identify people by their breathing patterns. Every small skill made her feel capable, alive, and free. But it was more than skill. It was choice. Daniel never forced her. He waited, explained, and encouraged. This was something Luria had never experienced. On Vierks, everything had been decided for her: meals, clothes, tasks, even her future. One evening, as the artificial sun in her quarters dimmed into a soft glow, Luria asked a question she had kept buried. "Do humans always treat others like this?" Daniel paused, thinking carefully. "Not always," he said honestly, "but many do. We have to learn to listen, to understand, and to respect." Luria felt the weight of that. Respect. It was a word she had only heard in the council chambers but never felt. And now, in a small, practical ship light years from her home, she understood its meaning. Time passed, and Luria began to notice other things about humans. Their gestures, their laughter, even the way they worked together. They made mistakes often, but they learned from them. They valued creativity and problem-solving more than perfection. One day, an emergency drill shook the ship. Luria was terrified, but Daniel stayed calm. He guided her hand to the walls, spoke clearly, and explained every sound and vibration. "Focus on what you feel, not what you fear," he said. For the first time, Luria realized she was not weak. She was capable. Her senses were different, yes, but they were strong. She could navigate a ship faster than some fully sighted humans. She could sense danger before others. And with Daniel's help, she was beginning to trust herself. During mealtime, Daniel described each dish in detail: the textures, the smells, the taste. Humans ate with their senses, not their eyes. Luria began to appreciate food in ways she had never imagined. She learned to cook with Daniel, using her hands to feel ingredients, combining them based on touch, smell, and intuition. "You could open a restaurant one day," Daniel joked lightly. "People would come just to experience food through your senses." Luria laughed quietly. It was soft but real. She realized she had not laughed like that in years. As they spent more time together, a bond grew, slow, steady, and genuine. Daniel never treated her as fragile, never pitied her, and never saw her blindness as a flaw. And slowly, Luria began to feel something new: friendship, trust, even the beginnings of affection. The ship's sensors alerted them to a passing alien freighter. The crew on the freighter watched the human vessel with suspicion. Humans were still considered unpredictable, weak, and often ignored by larger galactic powers. Many thought Daniel's mission was pointless, but Luria saw something no one else did. She listened to the way humans communicated under pressure, how they adapted, how they improvised. She realized that humans were not weak. They were resilient, creative, and courageous in ways that others did not notice. One night, Luria sat by the observation deck, listening to the hum of the engines and the distant whispers of stars. "Daniel," she asked quietly, "do you think humans are stronger than other species think?" Daniel joined her, placing a hand lightly on hers. "I do. Strength isn't always about speed or power. Sometimes it's about heart, determination, and the ability to care when no one is watching." Luria felt a warmth she had never felt on Vierks, the feeling of being seen, truly seen. She realized that the human who had been forced upon her as a husband might be the one who showed her the most freedom. Weeks later, a small incident tested their trust. A minor system failure trapped them in one corridor. Luria could feel the vibrations of the machinery, notice changes in air pressure, and sense exactly where the problem was. With Daniel's guidance, she helped navigate a repair before the ship's main crew even realized there was an issue. The alien observers who watched humans from afar were surprised. A blind alien woman, guided by a human, had solved a problem that many fully sighted aliens could not. And quietly, the reputation of humans grew. At night, as Luria prepared for rest, she whispered to herself, "Maybe humans are stronger than anyone knows." Daniel overheard her but said nothing. He only smiled. There was no need for words. He knew she was learning something important, not just about humans but about herself. The journey through space continued, long and silent, but Luria no longer feared it. Each day brought discovery, learning, and a new understanding of courage. Humans were different, yes, but in their difference lay something powerful, something that even the proud elders of Vierks had underestimated. And Luria, for the first time in her life, felt hope. Hope that she could be more than a mistake, more than a burden, more than a blind alien woman cast aside. She was learning the human way of seeing the world, and it was changing her forever. The human ship had been traveling through a quiet sector of space for months. Stars passed like silver threads, distant and unblinking. For Luria, the endless black outside the ship's hull was no longer frightening. She had learned to feel it, listen to it, and trust her instincts. Still, the unknown held a quiet tension, a reminder that danger could appear anywhere in the galaxy. One morning, alarms blared through the corridors. Red lights flashed, echoing against walls and metal floors. Luria froze at first, but Daniel was there instantly. "Stay calm," he said. His voice was steady like a lifeline. "This is a containment breach, nothing we can't handle." Luria's hands trembled slightly, but she did not move away. Daniel guided her by the arm as they followed the emergency path through the ship. The vibration under her feet told her more than she could have imagined. She could feel the uneven pressure of the engines, the heat of the emergency doors sealing shut, and even the distant hum of electrical surges in the walls. The humans aboard the ship worked quickly, but the situation was serious. A small cargo pod had ruptured, releasing a volatile energy substance. If it reached the engine core, the entire ship could explode. Daniel turned to her. "You can help. Your senses are different. You can detect pressure changes faster than any sensor." Luria nodded. She had never felt so important. Never had she felt that the world truly depended on her. She took a deep breath and focused. Her hands pressed against the walls, her feet measured every step. The vibration of the floor beneath her told her the exact location of the leaking pod. "Over here," she called. Her voice was confident, not timid. The human crew followed her guidance, setting up barriers and containment measures faster than anyone could have expected. Daniel watched with quiet pride. Luria moved naturally, guided by intuition and senses no machine could replicate. When the danger passed, Luria leaned against a wall, heart racing. She realized she had done something no one on her home planet could have imagined. She had helped save a human ship. Daniel approached, his hand brushing hers. "You see, you are stronger than anyone imagined," he said softly. Luria smiled, a small but radiant expression. "I feel alive." It was in that moment that the first real possibility arose, the chance to restore her sight. Daniel had long known of a procedure developed by human scientists, experimental, precise, and risky. It could awaken the dormant visual structures in Luria's species, giving her the ability to see. But it had never been tested on a full-grown adult. It required complete trust and courage. When the doctors explained the procedure to her, Luria's first reaction was silence. Her mind raced with memories of being forced, judged, and hidden away. Could she trust anyone enough to take this step? Daniel stood quietly at her side. "The choice is yours," he said. "I will not force you. I will only guide you." For the first time, Luria understood the true difference between humans and her own species. On Vierks, everyone acted for honor, fear, or obligation. Humans acted because of respect, compassion, and choice. She nodded slowly. "I want to see." The procedure began in a sterile, quiet chamber. Machines hummed gently, lights pulsed softly, and Daniel held her hand throughout. Luria felt strange sensations, pressure behind her eyes, warmth spreading through her skull, and finally the sharp clarity of light she had never known. When she opened her eyes, the world exploded in color, form, and movement. She gasped, overwhelmed. The chamber was no longer walls and metal. It was filled with shapes, textures, and depth she could finally understand. Her first vision was of Daniel. His face, calm and reassuring, stared back at her. He smiled softly, not with pride but with patience. You are real," she whispered. "I've always been real," Daniel replied. Luria blinked rapidly, trying to take in everything. The machines, the lights, the contours of the room, everything was new. She could see the gentle curve of the doctor's instruments, the subtle reflections on the floor, and even the faint shimmer of the starfield beyond the observation window. Then she looked at herself in a nearby mirror. Her pale skin, her delicate features, the hair she had never really seen in full detail. She studied every line and curve. And for the first time, she saw not a flaw, not a mistake, but herself. The doctors explained that her vision was stable. With care, she could experience the world fully, learn to interpret colors in depth, and see far beyond anything she had imagined. But the real transformation was not in her eyes, it was in her mind. Luria now felt free, empowered, and alive. When news of her recovery reached Vierks, Elder Saren arrived, expecting gratitude and obedience. She had expected her daughter to return, humbled and compliant. Instead, she was met with a sight she could not ignore. Luria stood tall, confident, her eyes bright, her posture unafraid. She no longer seemed fragile. She no longer seemed lost. She looked at her mother with something the elder could not understand: strength, independence, and choice. "Mother," Luria said softly but firmly, "I am not coming back. I choose my life. I choose my path." Saren's jaw tightened. "You owe me respect. You owe me your duty." Luria shook her head. "I owe you nothing. You chose fear over love, shame over freedom." I will not repeat your mistakes. Daniel stepped beside her, placing a reassuring hand on hers. She has made her choice. She is ready to live fully. The elder's face turned pale. For the first time, she understood something vital. Her daughter's strength did not come from technology, rank, or power. It came from courage, choice, and trust, values humans understood in ways Vierks never had. Across the galaxy, Lurtya's story began to spread. Humans were no longer seen as weak, emotional, or inconsequential. They were beings capable of awakening strength, respect, and freedom, even in those the galaxy had considered broken. Lurtya explored her new world with awe. She learned to interpret colors and light, to recognize shapes and distances, to understand the vast beauty of the universe in ways she had never imagined. But even as she explored, she remembered the lessons Daniel had taught her. Seeing was more than vision. True sight came from understanding, empathy, and courage. And Daniel, he never stopped guiding her, never stopped trusting her, and never stopped showing her what it meant to be human. Together, they were no longer just partners in a marriage forced by others. They were equals, explorers, and symbols of what humans could achieve when they acted with compassion and respect. The turning point had come. Lurtya could see. But more importantly, she had discovered the human way of strength, not the strength of weapons or dominance, but the quiet, relentless strength of dignity, choice, and empathy. And in that quiet, powerful way, the galaxy was about to see humanity differently. The moment Lurtya stepped off the human ship onto the bustling orbital station, she felt a new kind of energy. The world was alive in ways she had never imagined. Colors shimmered everywhere. Light bounced from every surface. Ships of countless designs moved like fish in the void, and beings of every shape and size crossed her path. But the most important thing she noticed was herself. She was no longer the timid, blind alien woman her mother had tried to hide. She was strong, she was capable, she could see, and most importantly, she could choose. Daniel walked beside her, calm and steady as always. His presence was reassuring, grounding. He had never treated her as weak or fragile even before she could see. Now, with sight restored, she realized the depth of what he had given her, not just guidance, but respect, trust, and true partnership. The first order of business was to confront her mother, Elder Saren. The elder had arrived, escorted by a small delegation from Vierks. She expected submission, obedience, and gratitude. She would not get any of it. Lurtya met her mother in a quiet observation room overlooking the station. The stars glittered beyond the glass, endless and indifferent. Saren's eyes were sharp, her posture regal. But Lurtya noticed something she had never noticed before, a flicker of uncertainty. "Mother," Lurtya began, her voice steady, "I have seen the universe. I have seen what humans can do, and I have seen what I am capable of. I owe you nothing for a life you tried to control." Saren's lips pressed into a thin line. "You are disrespectful," she said. "You should thank me for your position. You should obey your duty." Lurtya shook her head. "You confused shame with honor, fear with care. You hid me because you were afraid. But humans taught me something you never understood. Strength is not in rank or power. Strength is in choice, compassion, and courage." Daniel stepped forward. "She speaks the truth. Lurtya's life is her own. Humanity respects that. We do not act from fear or obligation. We act from understanding." Saren's face paled. For the first time, her authority felt fragile. Lurtya's words were not angry but firm. They carried clarity and confidence, the kind of clarity that could not be ignored. Across the station, whispers began. Delegates from other worlds noticed the human and the alien woman standing together, calm yet unyielding. For generations, aliens had believed humans to be weak, emotional, and short-lived. Now they saw something different. Humans uplifted, respected, and empowered others. Lurtya continued, "I am not broken, I am not weak. I am alive and I have seen. And I have chosen to live fully with Daniel by my side, not because I must, but because I want to." Saren's hands trembled slightly. She had expected fear, perhaps tears, or even begging. She had not expected this calm, resolute strength. Her daughter was no longer a reflection of her own pride. She was a being of her own making, shaped by courage and choice. Daniel placed a hand on Luria's shoulder. The galaxy has seen her journey. Let it also see that humans honor dignity. That is the true strength of our species. The elders' delegation shifted uncomfortably. Vierks had always judged strength by rank, by titles, and by control. This display was different. It was quiet but undeniable. Luria's presence, her voice, and her confidence made a statement louder than any battle or speech. For the first time, Elder Saren understood. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile. They were a force built on empathy, respect, and courage. And they could change lives without raising a weapon, without forcing obedience, without expecting submission. You have changed, Saren whispered almost to herself. Yes, Luria said softly but firmly. I have. And you can too, if you learn to see the strength in others rather than fear it. The elder's pride wavered, but Luria did not wait for forgiveness or acceptance. She had her own life to live. She turned to Daniel, and together they walked through the station, hands brushing lightly. Each step was deliberate, full of purpose. As they moved among the humans and other species, Luria began to notice how differently humans interacted. They did not measure worth by appearances, lineage, or strength alone. They measured it by action, compassion, and courage. A small crowd gathered near the central hub of the station. Delegates whispered to one another, watching Luria, the once blind alien, now fully seeing, now fully herself, and walking confidently beside a human. Their judgment of humans shifted in that moment. One delegate, a tall being with silver skin, muttered to another, "Perhaps we have underestimated them." Luria overheard but did not flinch. She had learned to walk among the stars, not hiding, not shrinking. She had learned to trust herself and those who acted with integrity. Over the following days, Luria explored the station. She learned to navigate the intricate hallways with her new sight, touched the glowing panels, and marveled at colors she had only imagined in description. She even helped Daniel with engineering tasks, her senses now blending touch, sound, and sight in ways that amazed everyone around her. At night, they would sit in the observation deck, gazing at the galaxy. Luria's fingers intertwined with Daniel's as she spoke. "Do you know why humans seem so different?" she asked quietly. Daniel smiled. "Because we are willing to trust, we are willing to respect, and we are willing to act when others doubt us." Luria nodded. "I understand now. My blindness was never a flaw. And your patience, your guidance, it showed me the true strength of a human." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "And you have shown me the strength of yours." Word of Luria's recovery, courage, and independence traveled fast. Humans on the station and across the Alliance celebrated the story quietly, with admiration. Humans were not just participants in galactic politics. They were a species capable of inspiring others, uplifting those who were rejected, and proving that strength came from heart, choice, and courage. Even on Vierks, news of Luria's independence and vision began to spread. Elder Saren, humbled, returned to her council, quietly observing her daughter's story resonate across worlds. Pride and fear had always guided her, but now she realized that respect, trust, and understanding had far greater power. Luria, walking beside Daniel, became a symbol. Not just for humans, but for all who had ever been judged for what they lacked. She was proof that limitations could be overcome, that courage could shine brighter than any fear, and that humans, though underestimated, could change the galaxy with kindness and integrity. In the quiet moments, Luria would sometimes close her eyes, not from necessity, but to remember the journey she had made. She had been blind once, but now she saw more clearly than anyone else, not just with her eyes, but with her heart. And the galaxy, for the first time, truly saw humanity. The humans had no grand weapons, no political power to force respect, but they had something far stronger, the ability to inspire, to uplift, and to act with courage when no one was watching. In Luria's story, the universe learned a simple truth. Strength is not about what you have, but how you treat others. And humanity had shown it in the most powerful way imaginable. As she looked at Daniel, at the stars, and at the bustling life of the station, Luria felt something she had never imagined possible: freedom, choice, and belonging. Her journey had begun with fear, blindness, and control. It ended with sight, courage, and partnership. And through it all, humans had quietly changed the galaxy, not with force but with integrity. Luria smiled, a full, radiant smile, and whispered to herself, "This is what it means to be truly alive." And the stars above seemed to shine just a little brighter, as if celebrating not just her vision, but the quiet, undeniable strength of humanity.